Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling adjectives.
Ah, yes,
We're
adjectives.
going to empower you with the knowledge to confidently wield them in both written and spoken English.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Now, I know what you might be thinking.
Mm.
Grammar.
Right.
Not exactly the most thrilling topic,
Yeah.
but trust me, mastering adjective forms can really make your communication stand out.
It really can.
We'll be using just a simple grammar worksheet as our guide today.
Perfect.
And what's fascinating, actually, is that most people already use all these adjective forms naturally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But by breaking down the mechanics, you can start to use them more intentionally.
That's a good point.
You can add a new level of polish and precision to your writing and speaking.
Precision, yeah.
So let's unpack this.
Okay.
We're starting with the foundation. Descriptive adjectives.
Okay.
Those are the ones that simply describe a noun or pronoun.
Right.
You know, like the bustling city or a delicious meal.
Exactly. They're like the spices in your culinary cabinet.
Oh, I like that.
You know, a dash of bright or a sprinkle of ancient can completely transform a sentence, adding layers of meaning and imagery.
The worksheet has this example. The old house stood on a quiet street.
Oh, nice.
Just those few words create a sense of mystery and history, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from that foundation, we can start to build comparisons.
Okay.
And that's where comparative and superlative adjectives come in.
So comparatives are for when you want to say one thing is bigger, faster, or funnier than another.
Right.
Cool.
And the way you form comparatives depends on the adjective.
Okay.
So short adjectives usually just get "-ery" added on. Like tall becomes taller, smart becomes smarter.
Easy enough. But what about words like beautiful? Do we say beautiful?
That's where things get a bit more nuanced.
Okay.
For longer adjectives, we use more plus the adjective.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be more beautiful, more interesting, more insightful. It adds a touch of elegance to the comparison.
The worksheet also points out that some adjectives have irregular comparative forms.
Ah, yes.
Like good, which becomes better.
Of course.
It's like English likes to keep us on our toes.
Absolutely.
Those irregular forms evolved over time,
Yeah.
and they often add a layer of richness and personality to the language.
For sure.
Think about the difference between saying, this cake is gooder, and this cake is better.
Much better, yeah.
Okay, so we've got taller, more beautiful, and better. That covers comparisons between two things.
Right.
What about when you're dealing with more than two? That's where superlatives come in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Superlatives are like the gold medalists of the adjective world.
I like that.
They express the highest degree of quality.
So instead of saying he's the tall boy, we'd say he's the tallest boy.
Precisely.
Right.
And just like comparatives, superlatives have their own rules. Short adjectives typically get est added on, like tallest, smartest, funniest.
Right.
But for longer adjectives, we use the most, plus the adjective.
Yeah.
The most beautiful, the most interesting, the most delicious.
And of course, we have those delightful irregular forms again.
Oh, yes.
Like best, worst, and furthest.
Right.
It's as if English has a few secret pathways that only reveal themselves with practice and exploration.
I love that analogy.
Language is like a vast landscape.
Yes.
And these irregular forms are like hidden trails that add unexpected beauty to the journey.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
So we've covered descriptive, comparative, and superlative adjectives.
We have.
Are there any other forms we need to have on our radar?
There are a couple more that can be really powerful tools for communication. Equative and non-equative adjectives.
Ooh.
These are all about comparing things as either equal or unequal.
So like saying, this book is as captivating as the last one I read for equality?
Exactly. And for inequality, you'd say, this coffee is not as strong as I like.
Right. Right.
These constructions are incredibly useful for making clear comparisons.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about the weather, your favorite movies, or complex scientific concepts.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple adjective forms can be used in so many different ways.
I know, right?
They're like tiny building blocks that we can use to construct complex structures of meaning.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
By mastering these forms, you gain the ability to express yourself with more nuance.
Absolutely.
More precision.
Yeah,
Adding depth and richness to your communication.
definitely.
This is already making me think about my own writing and speaking habits.
Oh, yeah.
I can see how being more deliberate with adjective forms could make a real difference.
It really can.
I'm eager to put this knowledge into practice.
And that's exactly what we'll do in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, perfect.
We'll be exploring some real-world examples from the worksheet and testing your knowledge with a few fun challenges.
All right, listeners, get ready to level up your adjective game. We'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. I'm excited to dive into some practical examples and see how these adjective forms can really elevate our communication. What have you got for us?
Well, the worksheet has a section that focuses on, the subtle ways we use comparative adjectives to convey different shades of meaning.
Okay.
It's not just about saying one thing is bigger or better than another.
Right.
We can use comparatives to create a sense of gradual change, build suspense, or even add a touch of humor.
Okay, that's intriguing. I'm all about those subtle nuances.
Okay, great.
Give me an example.
So take the words funny and humorous. They're both adjectives that describe something that makes you laugh, but they have slightly different connotations.
Okay.
Funny often implies something that's laugh out loud hilarious, while humorous suggests something more witty or clever.
So if I said, this comedian is funnier than the last one, it would sound like a stronger statement than saying, this comedian is more humorous than the last one.
Exactly. The comparative forms, funnier and more humorous, highlight those subtle shades of meaning.
Right.
And as a writer or speaker, being aware of those nuances allows you to choose the perfect word to create the exact effect you want.
That's a great example. It's like having a whole set of precision tools for language. What other gems are hidden in this worksheet?
Well, there's a section that explores how adjective placement can impact the rhythm and flow of your writing.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more effective to place the adjective before the noun, and other times it's better to place it after.
I've definitely noticed that in my own writing. Sometimes I play around with the word order to see what sounds best. Are there any hard and fast rules for adjective placement?
There are some general guidelines, but as with most things in language, there's always room for creativity and stylistic choices.
Okay.
One common rule is that shorter, more common adjectives usually come before the noun,
Right.
like a bright red apple or a tall, handsome stranger.
Okay, that makes sense. It sounds more natural to say it that way. What about longer or more descriptive adjectives?
Those often sound better after the noun. For example, you might say a city teeming with life, or a novel filled with intrigue.
Right.
Placing the adjective after the noun allows it to stand out more and adds a touch of emphasis.
That's interesting. So it's almost like the placement of the adjective can create a kind of musicality in the sentence?
Exactly. It's all about finding the rhythm and flow that best serves your message.
I'm loving these insights. It's like we're peeling back the layers of language and discovering all these hidden treasures. What else does the worksheet have in store for us?
Well, there's a section that delves into the fascinating world of irregular forms. We touched on a few earlier, like better and best, but there are quite a few more that often trip people up.
Oh, yes. Those irregular forms can be tricky. But I'm ready for the challenge.
Good.
What are some of the most common ones we should be aware of?
Well, bad becomes worse and worst, which are essential for expressing negative comparisons.
Right.
And far can become farther or further,
Right.
depending on whether you're talking about physical distance or metaphorical distance.
I've definitely struggled with farther and further before. It's good to have that clarified. What other irregular forms should we watch out for?
The words little and few can be tricky.
Okay.
Little refers to non-count nouns like water or time, and its comparative and superlative forms are less and least. So you'd say, I have less time than I thought, or this is the least amount of effort I ever put into something.
Okay, that makes sense. What about few?
Few refers to count nouns like books or people, and its comparative and superlative forms are fewer and fewest. So you'd say, I have fewer books than I used to, or this is the fewest number of people I've ever seen at a concert.
Ah, that's where I've been going wrong. I've definitely used less when I should have used fewer. It's these subtle distinctions that can really make a difference in our writing and speaking.
Absolutely. And the more we practice using these forms correctly, the more natural they will become.
The worksheet also mentions equative and non-equative adjectives, which we talked about briefly earlier. Are there any common mistakes people make with those constructions?
One common error is using the wrong form of the adjective after as.
Okay.
For example, people might say, she is as tall than him instead of she is as tall as him.
Yes. I've definitely seen that mistake before. It's easy to get tripped up by those little words.
Another common mistake is forgetting to include the second, as in the equative construction.
Right.
For example, people might say, this movie is as good instead of this movie is as good as the last one.
It's amazing how these seemingly minor errors can really jump out at you once you're aware of them. It's like having a newfound superpower of grammar awareness.
I love that. And as with any superpower, it takes practice and attention to detail to wield it effectively.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm already feeling more confident in my ability to use adjective forms effectively. What else do we have to explore in this worksheet? So much to learn about adjectives. Feels like we've covered so much ground already, but I'm ready for more. What else can we learn from this worksheet?
Well, the worksheet has some exercises that are designed to help you really internalize these concepts and start using them effortlessly in your own writing and speaking.
Ooh, I love a good challenge. What kind of exercises are we talking about?
One exercise asks you to describe a picture using as many different adjective forms as possible.
Okay.
It's a fun way to flex your creative muscles and experiment with different ways to convey your impressions.
That sounds like a great way to put all this knowledge into practice. What kind of picture are we talking about?
The worksheet actually provides several different pictures, so you can choose one that sparks your imagination.
Okay.
There's a bustling city scene, a peaceful landscape, a portrait of a mysterious figure, and even a plate of delicious-looking food.
Ooh, those all sound intriguing. I'm already picturing myself crafting elaborate sentences filled with vague descriptions. What other exercises are there?
Another exercise presents you with a series of sentences that contain errors in adjective usage.
Hmm.
Your task is to spot the errors and correct them, which can be trickier than it sounds. It really forces you to pay attention to those subtle distinctions we've been talking about.
I bet that's a real eye-opener. It's one thing to understand the rules in theory, but applying them in real-life situations can be a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. It's like the difference between reading about how to ride a bike and actually getting on one yourself.
Yeah.
You need that hands-on experience to truly master the skill.
I'm starting to see this worksheet as a kind of training ground for our adjective abilities. We're learning the moves, practicing our technique, and getting ready to take on the world with our newfound grammar prowess.
I love that analogy. And just like any athlete or artist, the key to mastery is consistent practice and a willingness to experiment and learn from your mistakes.
So, what's the final challenge in this adjective boot camp?
The worksheet ends with a series of writing prompts that encourage you to use all the different adjective forms we've discussed to create your own original pieces. You can write a descriptive paragraph, a short story, a poem, or even a song.
That's fantastic. It's like we're taking all these individual tools and techniques and using them to build our own unique masterpieces. It's a chance to really let our creativity shine.
And that's the ultimate goal of this deep dive, to empower you to use language with confidence and artistry, to express yourself with precision and nuance, and to create communication that is both impactful and memorable.
This has been such an enlightening journey through the world of adjectives. We've explored the basic forms, uncovered hidden nuances, and discovered the power of intentional language use.
We've seen how adjectives can be used to paint vivid pictures, evoke emotions, and shape the way we perceive the world around us.
If you're feeling as inspired as I am, I encourage you to grab a pen and paper or open up your laptop and start playing with adjective forms. Experiment, explore, and see what amazing creations you can come up with.
And as you go about your day, pay attention to the way adjectives are used in the books you read, the conversations you have, and the media you consume. You'll start to see those familiar forms in a whole new light and appreciate the artistry behind their usage.
So what does this all mean? It means that grammar is not just a set of dry rules and regulations. It's a vibrant and dynamic system that allows us to shape meaning, create beauty, and connect with each other on a deeper level.
And that's the beauty of language. It's a constantly evolving tapestry woven from the threads of our shared human experience. By understanding its intricacies, we gain the power to not only communicate, but to create.
Until next time, fellow word enthusiasts, keep exploring the boundless possibilities of language and never stop diving deep.